What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video. I wanted to make this video just a short video, right? Basically talking about one of the little options or little settings that people have only just now started to notice. I don't know how long ago they've actually added these options into the game, but they basically added so you can, well, added a setting or an option where you can kind of remove the assists that the game puts on, you know, your driving. So you can make it more, I don't want to say realistic, but basically it now will end up being pretty much one-to-one with what you're doing on your controller. Sorry, I was looking up off my screen to see if I was recording. So basically, instead of the game assisting you with the way you play, so right now as I'm turning to the right, obviously, you know, the game is trying not to, you know, it's trying to turn my wheels as well. Trying to make it so it's assisted enough where I don't, you know, go smashing into the wall or fully understeer. When I go ahead, this is all-wheel drive as well, this car, but obviously with rear-wheel drive cars you can notice it a lot better. If I start doing donuts here, right, I'm still steering to the left here, and you can see the game kind of counter-steering for me and doing that, right? If I go to the interior and you see my steering wheel counter-steering by itself, that's not me doing that. That is literally just the game doing that. Let me swap over to a rear-wheel drive car because then it's a lot more noticeable or a lot better to see what I'm talking about here. So let's swap over to what there you go, the RX-7, perfect. Okay, so let me show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So this is my drift spec RX-7. Very, very, very sick car. It drives really well. They've changed the noise for it though, like the sound, so it's a little bit shit. You can see what my steering angle actually is with this car, so obviously pretty mental. I am still steering to the left here, and then once I don't have to basically counter steer when I'm playing. That is just not one, that it just doesn't need to happen in this game. The game kind of just does it for you, right? That is the whole purpose of playing like this. This is because of the handling assists that were basically just cut from the mobile version of this game. It's kind of difficult for you to kind of counter-steer on the mobile version of the game. It just isn't really correct. So the game, instead of having you go full lock this way, it'll end up counter-steering for you whenever you're sliding, pretty much, right? So these settings here, let me just collect this real quick because I am still getting, or I'm re-getting all of the prototype parts so I can make another one of those videos because I think it'll be kind of fun. So in the settings, if you go here and you go all the way to the controls and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can now have these controls here, especially this one at the very, very bottom. These two were here always, but here, this one is an experimental option that they've added into the game. So again, this wasn't an option at the very beginning because I was still telling people, I remember in the comments in some of my previous videos, I remember I was telling people that you cannot turn off the counter steering assist, right? So if I turn off drive assist completely, this will do us slightly, but if I turn them off completely, I have tried this, by the way, before on Carx Drift Racing Online, right? That is one of the games that I ended up trying this on, and it just didn't go well. The game just isn't built so you can drive it like this. This one is probably one of the easier cars to control like this, even though it's not good. Can it be driftable like this? Yes, but at the same time, just maybe the tune is not right for it, but having to catch it again is just weird. It feels like I'm driving on sim steering on Forza, but like turned up to like 1,000 in terms of sensitivity. So let me bring it over to the mountain so I can actually show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So for people that are constantly telling me to turn this setting off and try it like this, no, because the game isn't built so you can drive it like this. That's why it's an experimental option. So here's the thing, right? In previous games, or sorry, in games such as Forza, Gran Turismo, even Assetto Corsa now, there is an option in Assetto Corsa Evo where you can actually drift a lot easier than in, let's say, the original Assetto Corsa. Project Cars was notorious for having this. So as you're driving along, and you're turning left or you're turning right, what the game is trying to do is obviously try to make it so it's at least a little bit restrictive and assisted, so the car doesn't fully lock the wheels and understeer in the direction that you're driving, right? That is the whole point of assists for the controller. right? I'm not saying that you should be able to have the game counter steer for you, but that's just what this game is like, right? In games, like I said, like Forza and Gran Turismo and all that sort of stuff, the game doesn't counter steer for you, but you have slightly more assist where it doesn't fully lock your wheels when you're turning to the left or to the right. Because keep in mind, basically the steering for this is center of my analog stick, right? The controller's analog stick is the center screen. If I push it to the left, right, all the way to the left, that is full lock to the left, and then if I push it to the right, it's full lock to the right. The amount of steering precision that you need to have, that's why it's so much better on a wheel if you're doing this sort of stuff, because you have so much more steering precision, because it's a big wheel. You have to turn it multiple times. It's like when I'm going on the inside of this car, you can see the amount of times you have to turn it to be able to actually make it into a full lock. It's a lot longer, and it's just a larger surface for you to be able to turn, to be able to make it more accurate with the way you're driving. You know what I mean? Like, your stick moving left and right is crazy small, and the only way people can really do it is if you roll the stick. So if you push it forward, you can kind of roll the stick at the top. And what I mean by that is you can kind of roll on how you want the stick to steer a little bit smoother than normal, but you can see it's still really, really bad. It, like, again, it's not accurate. Like, the car feels like it's all over the place. This is on street tires, right? So these are on the worst possible tires that you can slap onto this thing. And here's another thing as well about Forza and Gran Turismo and all those games, where if you've ever played those games and you've seen that your steering basically does not do a full lock, right? Like, if you're looking at the visually, like the steering in cockpit view doesn't do a full lock. And you know why that is? Because the assists that the game puts on the game constantly ends up making your car go from full lock to full lock, right? It's just constantly changing. So if they don't put that little lock on the thing, your hands will look like this as you're driving all the time. You can see how fast your hands move because of, if you're driving on a controller, it makes you go from full lock to full lock, and it just looks a bit dumb when it's like this. See what I mean? Because again, playing on controller is the main and most important part of these games, because most of these people that are going to be playing this are either going to be playing, especially this game, they're going to be playing either on controller or keyboard and mouse, right? You will have people with wheel setups, and of course, definitely the better option, especially for these games, to be able to play it with a mouse or with a wheel, because it just is the better and more fun way to play the game. But if you want to be able to have a lot of people playing the game, you can't just have a game that is fully just for wheel users, and then you have controller people not being able to play the game. That was the very first Project Cars. I remember when they released it, and it was horrific to play on controller or keyboard and mouse. And then they ended up releasing, the third one, or the second one, sorry, which they made a little bit better, and then the third one, which they ended up releasing, and they just made full arcade. Now, the reason why the people in the comments of my videos have been asking is because I was making a few all-wheel drive builds, and people were saying that the all-wheel drive builds are actually quite a lot better with this setting on, because it kind of stops the counter steering from happening. I do agree with that sentiment as well, but at the same time, it still ends up making my cars understeer regardless. So it's, as much as I do enjoy having more freedom and being able to, you know, not have the game counter steer for me or anything like that, it still, first of all, makes my cars look stupid, and they look like this when I'm sliding. It just makes them very, very twitchy and very weird to drive. So, of course, the only way to do that is to be a little bit more accurate. And again, you can't, like, brake and then slightly turn, because your wheels don't do that. Your wheels just fully lock up, and you brake straight forward. That's also a big thing. But, again, it just looks very weird, and, again, your car just understeers everywhere like this. It just is how it is. I mean, I can't really do anything about it. It just is how the game is made. And I'm sorry for the people that have been basically wanting me to try this out or change the setting, but no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to change the setting. The game itself is definitely a lot better. What am I doing? I want to change my settings. The game is definitely a lot better with these settings on max. It just plays the game the way it just plays the way it's supposed to be played, pretty much, right? Again, this is still very similar to the bottom one. It'll still do very similar things. It's a little bit better. It kind of counter steers for you slightly, but not too much. This was maybe a little bit easier, a little bit better to drive. The thing is though, I am all-wheel drive sliding here, so the rear-wheel drive is still going to be just as twitchy because your steering still will end up doing the same thing. You still go from full lock to full lock on your controller without any assist. It does feel like maybe there's a little bit more assist in like the starting. It's not as twitchy when you're first moving the stick, and then it gets really twitchy obviously when you go full lock, or I guess when you go max with the push of the stick. So I'm trying to kind of explain it to you guys in a way where you can kind of understand it, but that's what I kind of mean with that. So as you can see, it still fully locks up regardless of what you do. Whereas if you turn it on, like I've shown you before, the game will try to counter steer for you and it'll try to straighten out. The only way you can kind of get around this thing and to make it a lot better is if you change your tune. That's it. So you adjust your tune accordingly. Like I'm still steering into the corner here. You can see how much smoother it is now. It's just better, right? Again, the only way that you can kind of adjust it so it's better like this is if you take off maybe a little bit of caster, change your Ackerman, change your steering angle, all that sort of stuff. There's so many different ways that you can make it so this thing is a lot more usable, which is exactly what I did to this car specifically. But you can see how much better and how much easier the car slides with these assists on. It doesn't force my lock to go from lock to lock very, very quickly. And you can see it here, right? Watch. As I'm driving at a little bit of pace, I'm going to go full lock to the left right now. Ready? 3, 2, 1. That is not full lock. You see what I mean? How fully assisted it is now? Because obviously full lock is this, right? If I was to go full lock, it'll look exactly like this. But obviously the game doesn't allow that because it knows you don't want that. The game will just end up understeering your car like it did when I had the assists off. So for people that are telling me to go and try and use this this thing, hopefully this video is nice little eye-opening for you guys. And again, before you start, trashing, Forza and other games for basically not having full steering lock on the inside of the car, keep in mind that they're doing this for a reason, by the way. They try to make it so your steering does not look like it's flying all over the place every second. You know what I mean? Because it's all fully assisted, of course, in Forza. It tries to make it as realistic as possible with the handling physics, which I really do appreciate. Again, games like Gran Turismo, games like Forza have mastered the way to make an arcade game feel like it's still being realistic in terms of how you're supposed to be driving it. You go into a corner, you counter steer to come out of the corner. Like, a lot of these arcade games have not mastered that. Need for Speed being a massive one. It just doesn't know how to do it properly. They just haven't been doing it ever, properly. It's crazy to me that is still a thing that Need for Speed have not figured out to do. Like, Need for Speed is a massive franchise, so it was crazy to me that they still haven't figured out how to do handling physics properly. And again, this game, at the end of the day, is a mobile game that has been ported over to the PC, so of course the handling physics and everything is going to be somewhat similar, but they tried to make it so it's definitely more drivable with a controller and a keyboard and mouse. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope this is a good explanation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos like this on the channel, then of course subscribe. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and go check out some of the previous ones that I've done. I made a full prototype build on a car in yesterday's video. It was actually very, very sick. I also made a build on this thing that you're watching right now, so go and check that out. Again, it's on the channel, plus a lot of Forza videos and all that sort of stuff, so you guys can check all that stuff out if you're interested. But for now, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.